Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Devil's Advocate with your host, Lisa McGrath. That's me. And I'm joined today by Sue Meyer. And she is just a phenomenal woman. I know I say amazing a lot, Sue. So my audience is going to be like, is she amazing, Lisa? Tell me about it. But you're like, I mean, just you and I have had lunch together. We've had a couple of conversations, and you and I have had quite the journey. And I mean, you've got a couple of years on me. I just say a couple because you look great.
Oh,
But
thanks.
yeah, you're welcome. But yeah, so welcome to the show. Thanks for being on it.
Thank you very much for having me. This is awesome.
Absolutely.
Long
So
time coming.
I know, right? I've been bugging you so bad. I'm like, you got to come on my show. And you want to know what it is? It's because I just gravitate towards like championing women.
Hmm.
And especially women who are fierce and leaders and have some cool stories. Like you have a really cool life story of just
Yeah.
the things that you've been through, your trials and tribulations, your successes, and it's made you who you are today. And you're just like this amazing little firecracker of a human that, like is on. So it's funny because you and I met through LinkedIn because you kept popping up on my feed. And I'm like, who is this person? I got to go find out who this person is. So then I went and I looked up and you were in the midst of, you were in transition at the time that I'd
Hmm.
figured out who you were. And you're transitioning from one company to another. But then what ended up happening is I was like, I need to figure out who she is. So I added you. And then I paid attention and I complimented how like engaged you are online and how
Hmm.
you're very like everything you say has some sort of positive spin on it. It's like, that's a great way to look at it. Or I agree with you, or this is a good thing to put forward. Like you
Hmm.
promote people and to
Yeah.
me, a lot of people don't understand how just that little like 5-second, read of what you're saying to them completely
Hmm.
changes their day. Like it does.
Yeah.
Like even when you do it with mine, like when I post my podcasts on LinkedIn
Hmm.
and you're like, oh my God, this is a great topic. And there should be more time and whatever you say, because it's always positive. And I'm
Yeah.
like, agreed. But when I see like your post come up like on mine, I'm like, hee hee, Sue's gonna say something cool.
Yeah, that's I do like, I think connecting
Mhm.
and being a connector is one of the finest things that you can do as a human. There's nothing I like better than to meet somebody who has some kind of problem, and then I have a person that can that can solve it, or because you open yourself up in this world to connect with people, and you're connecting with humans, right? And you find a human that you really kind of gravitate towards, and you say, you know what? I want to help you. And you keep your ears open and you talk to other humans, and other humans say, you know what, I'm getting into this condo thing and I don't know what I'm going to do, and I say, hey, I've got a girl for you. Right? I mean,
Yeah.
because you listen, and you always have that desire, I want to help, I want to help.
Yeah.
So
It's true. I mean,
that's
like I do
kind of
the
my
same
deal.
thing and it's so funny because I've had people come into my life and they're like, "Oh my God, Lisa, you should charge for that." And I'm like, "Ew, no."
Yeah.
Like charge
Yeah.
to connect people that I already know? Like why would I do like
Yeah.
for me, like reciprocity is a really big thing, especially for me this
Hmm.
year. I've connected so many people, helped so many businesses, and at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, reciprocity will come back to me and it will say,
Yeah.
you did all these things, and so we're going to show you your time to reap, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what it is. Like, there's so many things that I do in my line of work that like I'm not super busy right now. I'm getting there, but I'm not super busy. But
Hmm.
I spend a lot of time in conferences, and people either want to hear me speak or they want me to host or moderate because I have a certain level of energy that they're
Hmm.
like, "Oh, you're captivating. Everybody wants to listen to you." And I'm like, "Oh, thank you. Are you sure?" But then
Yeah.
again, like I started this podcast and it seems like people do like to listen to me. So I'm like, "Oh, well, that's great." I'm like, but for me it's not, yeah, it's not just about them listening to me. It's about sometimes saying the things that other people want to say, but they won't. And then
Hmm.
also people coming on and having the conversations. Because here's the thing, even though I'm engaged on the trade side of it and I want trades to have a voice, there are so many levels to trades. So
Hmm.
many levels. And then it was funny because I have one that's dropping today. What's today? It's today, Wednesday. So today, one dropped today. And it was a friend of mine who's a trucker.
Hmm.
So I have to go online after this and I have a whole bunch of things I got to do. But I thought trucking was a trade. And he corrected me. And he was like, we're not a trade. And I'm like,
Hmm.
you're
It's a
not?
profession.
Yeah. And he's like, no. He's like, we're unskilled labor. And I was like,
Unskilled labor.
yeah. And I'm like, but you guys have to be professional drivers. And he's like, mm-hmm. He's like, yeah. He's like, there's a lot of, he's like, he kind of gave me the ins and outs of the trucking industry. And I got to be honest with you, I was quite taken back by how many designations they have to have and endorsements on their licenses and all of these things. But yet it's not recognized as, something more than just like an unskilled labor.
I would have to say I was married to a trucker.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and he would die to hear that because he thought he was God's gift to the universe. But he said it was a profession, like it was because you need all of these skills and all of these tickets, and you need, even medicals, and there are a bunch of hoops.
Yeah.
Um, and luckily nowadays you can't buy them as easily as you could once upon a time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I would always see it as a profession.
I do too because of that. But then, like he had
Yeah,
pointed out some things to me. He's like, you've got people coming over from different countries that are just
yeah,
able to obtain all this like all these alleged certifications and endorsements, and they do
buy it.
have all of these testings in other languages. And he's like, but yet they're driving between Canada and the States or all of Canada, and they're taking them in other languages. And I'm like, you shouldn't do that because our signage is in English or
Exactly.
French.
Yeah,
So you need to be
because
able
our
to.
national language is English or
That
French.
that's right. So I'm like, if I went over to Germany, I would have to learn German if I was going to do something that required me to pay attention to their signage.
Yes.
I don't
Which, if
speak
you took
German.
licensing in English, that's not going to help you drive in Germany.
That's correct. So to me, and it's like, and it's no different. Same with like if I go
Yeah,
somewhere of a Spanish speaking country or a Portuguese speaking country or, whatever, Swahili
yeah,
speaking country, Hindi, doesn't matter. I have to learn that language if I'm going to take on a profession that requires me to be able to read their legislation and their signs. And
yeah.
I'm like, I don't understand. So that kind of tripped me up a bit. And he's like, the truckers that are coming into the country that are new, that have been maybe that they don't understand the rules, like the
Hmm.
Canadian rules. Like he's like some of the stuff he would tell me was wild, Sue. Like he told me that like he was driving highway 11 or highway 16 in Ontario. I think it's highway
Hmm.
11. I think it's highway 11. Anyway, and he was telling me that's like one of the most dangerous highways. And he
Hmm.
said that a lot of them from other countries will like literally prop up like a laptop onto the dash and watch a movie while they're driving. And I'm like, what? And he's like, oh yeah. He's like, the amount of accidents, fatality accidents on that highway are unreal.
Well, if you're in an accident with a big rig, you're going to lose,
Well, he said to
right?
me, he said, little trucks have accidents, semis have tragedies.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what he said. And I was like, yeah, I agree with you 100%. But
Yeah.
anyway, I digress. We're going to talk about you because that's why you're here. That's why you're here. So I want you to tell my listeners what you do, and other than being a connector, like what do you do? You don't have to say your company, obviously, but what you do and how you got there and how you came to kind of realize that this is something you love to do.
Hmm. So, I began my career with ADP.
Okay.
Coming and going, I was there for about 21 years. So they really shaped my perception of a professional career. Luckily, I had a really great boss that taught me what motivates me.
Hmm.
And he taught me um, just like everything about being a really great leader. And he was so great, Steve Fleming was so great that I wanted to succeed for him. I would turn myself inside out to succeed for him
Yep.
because he was so great. And he kept on sending the standings and he'd circle me. And of course, I was always number one or two, sometimes three if I was slipping. And he'd give me little notes like, "Will this ever stop? I don't think so, you know." And "Oh, look, here you are again at number one." Like he'd give me all these little notes with our standings, and it thrilled me that he was excited for me, and it made me want to succeed for him. So luckily, that's how I began my career, with such a great leader. And then throughout my career, I did a whole bunch of different things. I always was primarily in sales,
Hmm.
and I was always selling a product that I believed in, that I knew was that I was helping my client with it, right? So when I
Hmm.
was selling payroll and HR services, I would go into companies that were taking forever doing their payroll, or they'd have late remittances and be getting charges, and it's like, "Hey, I can help you." And I would help them get it all set up, and I'd help them do their first couple pay runs to make sure that they were comfortable and that it helped in the end, so that they're thrilled and they know that Sue said this was going to work. Sue helped me do everything, and Sue was right. This is fantastic for me. So throughout my career, I sold all kinds of different products, but all of them were helping. I could never sell anything. And actually, I left a couple companies because I was beginning to feel, "I'm sorry to inflict this upon you, but would you please buy it? I have to pay my rent." And I can't function like that. And so
Hmm.
that would ultimately make me leave for something different. And now I am the director of Travis Engineering, director for Western Canada. It is a true family. Like I finally feel complete and satisfied, and I look forward to every single day, and everything is just wonderful. Like talk about a puzzle coming together, and you find that final piece and you stick it in there, and it's like, "This is it." So I am it was kind of a little bit of hell to get here. Especially these last 8 years have been so difficult. But the best revenge is success. And no matter what life gives you, in the end, put it behind you and be successful, because that's your best revenge. You
Hmm.
can't really, it does you no good to attempt to penalize someone who harmed you. It did, it just doesn't work to your benefit. You've got to let go. And I have let go of some situations that damn near took me off this earth.
Hmm.
Um, so I don't say that lightly, because I know some people would hear that and go, "Screw you, you don't know," right? But I do know, and I can tell you that in the end, I this year, 2025 was my year when I said, "You know what? I'm done with the past. I'm closing that door.
Hmm.
I am going to be successful." And then this company stepped into my life, and I've never looked back. And I am happier today than I've been in so long, maybe ever. Like
Okay.
I'm feeling so much more complete and happy and satisfied with the world, I could I could handle anything now. I
I love
am
that for
so
you.
strong and so resilient and
Yeah.
so happy.
And you're like, I'm going to tell you, Sue, you're super lucky that you had such an amazing mentor for such a long duration that was
I know.
championing you and being your cheerleader and in your corner. Because for me, when I think about that, for someone like myself, it was made up of many people. It
Mhm,
wasn't one consistent person. It was
mhm.
many different people along my path, along my journey, where they were a
Yeah,
cheerleader for a moment, but
yeah,
it still made an impact, right?
yeah, yeah.
So, and those are the people that, that we hold in our hearts, like a lot of
Mhm.
them, even though I don't talk to them anymore, even though I might not, we might not be like in the same industry anymore, I still think of them very fondly. And I'm
Yeah,
like, because of them, they really believed in me and they really thought I could do all these things. And I think that's amazing, and even like, even my ex, like, like, I mean, I talk a lot of shit about my ex because, I can talk a lot of shit about my ex, but
this
the
is
one
an
thing I
ex.
have said, and I've said it on my podcast, is that I could run around here being bitter that he's with somebody else, but why? Everyone deserves to be happy. And if she makes him happy and if she changes his perception just a little bit, then that's great. But then
Right.
the other part of it is, while I was with him, I basically ran his company.
Mhm,
While I was in the door doing everything, I learned how to run a company from like the bottom of it all the way to the top of it. And I
mhm.
worked my way up in his company. So I would love to sit here and be like, oh, I'm so destitute, but I'm really not, because he gave me something better than cash, which is what everybody wants, right? Everyone's like, oh, I'm leaving and he's got this much money and blah, blah, blah. Now, in my defense, I will say that I think that he should have probably given me a little bit more based on all the shit that I fucking did for 9 years. But I
Yeah.
digress, because he was the person that taught me how to fish instead of giving me the fish,
Yep, yep.
right?
And isn't it fantastic when you can look back at an unpleasant life lesson and understand the learning that came from it?
Yeah.
Like, that's what I've been doing lately is if an unpleasant memory or something comes back, um, I like to go, okay, but what did I learn?
Right.
Yes, that was awful, but
Mhm.
what did I learn from it?
Right.
Right? Or what happened because of it? So this happened, it put me in this place. And then who did I meet in that place? Or, what happened that ended up bringing me to something different?
Yep.
Right? Like, so to be able to look back at really harmful stuff,
Mhm.
but attempt to extract something that came from it. And that's why I keep on the optimistic side of life,
Mhm.
is because I always know that no matter what happens, there's a life lesson in there. There's
100%.
something for me to learn, right?
Yeah. So, but you know what? That's growth. That's maturity.
Hmm.
That's wisdom.
Yeah.
There's too many people that want to find a hill to die on, you know,
Hmm.
and make it their tragedy and just keep reliving it. And, it's funny. I said this to my other half one day. So we were having a conversation one day. I don't remember what the conversation was about, but it was about us and something he had said. And I said, do you just like make assumptions and go hurt your own feelings? And he was like,
I love that.
right. And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, I'm glad we had the conversation. He's just like, but I know he knows, like, we know each other so well that he's just like, why you got to be an asshole like that? And I'm like, I don't, you chose me. I'm a delight. Like, you forget, honey. Like, I'm the chocolate sprinkles on the already wonderful cake. And he's like, whatever. He's like, are you sure
That
it's not
is
my shit?
awesome.
I was like, well, I mean, depends on your palate. Not everybody likes chocolate. He's just like,
That's
whatever. But
fantastic.
but it's true though, right? It's like and
Yeah.
so many people do it, Sue. They take a
Yeah.
situation and it's impactful and it can be life-changing. It can really mess with you. But then they go and hurt their own feelings 100 times over. instead of just growing from it and saying, you know what, shit happens. It happened. I did this. What did I take from it? What did I take out of that? Did I learn something so I'll never go back to it? Was there something that happened in there that I didn't realize was, wielding me into becoming something different? Like
Yeah.
there's nothing else they want to do but just bitch about their situation. And I'm like, I don't have time for it. I don't have time.
See, and I was a victim of my situation and reliving the trauma, and it became my identity.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was a victim of fraud. The guy was supposed to love me, but he stole $497,000 he owes me. Yeah, put me in bankruptcy. It was bad.
I'm
Um,
sorry.
and that became my identity for a while.
Yeah.
It was my story, but I was holding that story. I am a victim of, and 2025 come along. I say, you know what? I'm never going to get paid back. He's never going to pay me a damn penny. And he lives in a mansion, and he used to live in California. Now he's in Louisiana. And I'm never going to see a penny back. The situation's never going to get resolved. He's never going to go to jail because I reported him all over the United States. Nobody cares because I'm Canadian. That's fine. And it's done. I'm over it. It hurt. It was a terrible lesson. He was very good at his craft. And I was an idiot. And it's over.
And
I'm
but
done
that's not fair
with
for you
that
to say,
story.
Sue. You weren't an idiot. You were a beautiful person that decided to believe somebody
Trust the
based
wrong
on what they were
people.
presenting to you. That's not
Yeah.
being stupid. That's being vulnerable. That's being open. And that's willing to take somebody at face value. They took advantage. They're the asshole.
Yeah.
You weren't stupid. You
Yeah.
know what? People like him prey on people like you, people with good hearts that can be vulnerable, that can have the conversations and be able, and they seek people like you out, because I'm a similar type character, right? I mean, I probably get more used and abused by friends than I do by partners because I'm so busy. Like I'm kind of like that. I don't got time for this. And it's kind of my thing. Like the fact that I have kids is like they're like my shield. It's like, oh, well, what are you doing this weekend? Kids.
Yeah.
So, but first of all, that's awful. Second of all, karma will get them. And I know everyone will tell you that karma will get them. We can speed karma up because, I'm a clairvoyant medium and I do like all those little things. So one day we'll just get together and maybe we'll just speed that karma up for you.
Let's do that.
I don't utilize my clairvoyant abilities. I've had them since I can remember, but I started a company and then I got too many people that would come to me and ask me the same stupid ass questions, because a clairvoyant medium is someone who talks to the dead. If you believe that, if you don't, that's up to you. It doesn't bother me any. I'm unfortunately have no choice but to believe it because I get talked to all the time. And I remember I had one friend of mine and she's Catholic, she's like devout Catholic. She cracked me right up. She's like, "Are you sure you're not schizophrenic?" I'm like, "Yeah, the voices don't tell me to do bad things." But thanks for asking. Thanks for clarity.
Yeah.
I'm good. We could do some clarity.
Thanks for checking in.
Right? I'm like, no. But, and it kind of made me laugh, but she's still a good friend of mine. I love her to death. But it was just so like, you could tell that it was not trying to be rude.
Yeah, of course.
It was rude, but it wasn't, she meant no harm by it. It was just like, she was like seriously concerned because, like when you're God-fearing woman, you're like, well, that can't be a thing. And I'm like, but God made us all different, so.
God doesn't make no mistakes.
That's right. God doesn't make a mistake. That's why I'm wonderful. That's why I'm a delight.
Right. That's why you're chocolate sprinkles.
Yes.
Yes.
But and so go ahead. Sorry.
I have to say, I know that you are chocolate sprinkles.
Oh, well, thank you. I say chocolate sprinkles. Sometimes he thinks it smells shit, but we'll go with it. Like, whatever, right? I think it's because I bust his chops a lot. I think that's what it is. I always bust his chops.
Yeah.
But I think that's healthy in a relationship if it's the dynamic you've created, because it's not healthy when people one person busts the other one, chops or teases them, and the other person is very sensitive and takes that to heart,
Yeah.
and I know that when him and I first got together, he didn't know how to take me because I banter a lot. And
Yeah.
he wasn't sure because he was like, well, if I banter back to her, is she going to have like a moment? And then it was, he learned very quickly that that's not what it is. I was like, oh, you're going to play ball. Are ya? Okay.
Hey,
And he was like, uh-oh.
Harry and I have the same relationship. Yeah.
Yeah. So you
Yeah.
get it. And there's not
Oh
a lot
yeah.
of couples that banter. And I mean, like my very best friend that I love to death, she can banter, but she's a little bit more sensitive. Like I
Mhm.
have to be careful with her because I mean, she's been my best friend for 30 years.
Yeah.
So I'm well aware of who she is as a person. There are days where she can 100% hit my level of banter. And then there are days where it's like,
Yeah.
it's not going to end well for anybody. Mostly me, because she's a
Yeah.
fire sign too. And she's feisty. And she used to wear, so she's Italian. I love her to death. She's
Mhm.
Italian. And when we were younger, she used to have these boots. She was known for these boots that she would wear because they were like a point.
Mhm.
And when she would kick you, she knew because she's like 5'4", so she could kick you like dead on in the shins every time, didn't matter your height.
Yeah.
And it hurts. And you know what it's like to get kicked in the shins. It
Yeah.
fucking hurts.
Oh yeah. It's
So
not fun.
people would never really talk shit to her because she'd just kick you in the shins. And she'd be like, how about that? And I was like, you fucking mean. And I remember people would come up and talk to me and they're like, well, I'm going to blah, blah, blah. I'd be like, hey, listen, I'll go get my best friend. And she's
Yeah.
wearing her shoes. She's
She's
wearing
gonna
those
kick you.
boots today. Keep talking shit.
So much
And
for
it's,
these boots are made for walking. These boots are made for kicking.
boots were made for kicking ass, and taking names. No,
Yeah.
but I love her to death. So I was actually just over at her place the other day. She's like, she's Italian. So she cooks amazing, right? And she bakes and she does all this stuff. And I'm like, my kids love her and our kids get along. I mean, we had kids right around the same time. So her daughter's like a year and a half older than my daughter. And then her sons are, I think, exactly 2 years older than my son. So they're all pretty close in age.
Mhm.
And so it's fun to do things together, but I want to like take her on a trip with me, but not with the children. I feel
Yeah.
like we would have to take the girls because the girls are like, they're stuck to their mummies. So I feel like we could have to take the girls, but the girls get along really well. They're really close. So that would be fine because they're like, our daughter's, mine's 14, hers is 15, turning 16.
Mhm.
So they're close enough in age that they're always together anyway.
Yeah.
But I'm like, we should just run away together. And she's like, I can't. I have things to do. Excuse me. And I'm like, we all have things to do.
Yeah.
I'm like, put it on pause. It's not on fire. It's fine.
Yeah.
But I don't know if she'll ever travel with me. I want to take her. I would like to take her to Jamaica. But I
Oh, that'd be
feel
fun.
like because she's a cute, short little Italian lady with like, like she's she's curvy. She's well endowed. She's got the booty and the boobs. That she would be like, she'd be chased in Jamaica.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Light
For
skin
sure.
with the booty
Yeah.
and the boobs. I'd be like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna beat him off with a stick, girl.
Yeah.
She's gonna be like, there's
You
no
need the
way my
boots.
significant. Well, her husband would be like, you're not taking her to Jamaica. Are you crazy?
Yeah. Not without me.
That's right. I'm coming too. And I'd be like, listen, you can be baggage. Okay. It's a girl's trip. Stay at a distance. But no, it would be a lot of fun. But it's one of those things where that's one friendship I will never get rid of. We've been
Yeah.
friends since we were in grade 7. Best friends since we're in grade 8. And
Yeah.
I don't ever plan to, she tells me this joke all the time. She's like, listen, you and me, we go together because you know too much and I'd have to fucking kill you. And I'm like, so glad we cleared
Sounds
that
about
up.
right.
So glad we cleared that up. Thank you. But then when we were younger, I got her in trouble by accident because, Italians, right? They're really strict. So she wasn't allowed to like really date or anything like that. And I got her in trouble by accident. I totally forgot that she was going on a date with this boy, and her mother called over to my house and talked to me, and I slipped and said that,
Uh-oh.
she's out with so-and-so. not thinking about it,
Oh,
because my parents are both Canadian. Well, my dad's an immigrant. Well, he's passed now, but my
yeah.
mom's Canadian. So they're like, oh, kids date at this age. This is a thing, blah, blah, blah. My mom was pretty easygoing and lax.
Yeah.
Then again, I grew up in the 80s and 90s where parents were like, you do you, you know?
Yeah.
So, but then so then she calls me and she's like, did my mother call you? And I was like, what happened? Maybe. And she's like, you totally ratted me out, didn't you? I'm like, yeah, I'm so sorry. She's like, you asshole.
No kidding.
She's like, I'm grounded. Look what you did. And I'm like, sorry. I'm like, it was a mistake. And I even tried to fix the mistake after I'd said it, because I said the guy's name and then I tried to turn it into a girl's name like an
Girl's name,
idiot.
yeah. Didn't work.
No,
No.
her mother's not stupid. Her
Yeah.
mother knew that the first name I said was the real name. At that point I was backpedaling and I knew it, she knew it. And I was just like, get off the phone. And that was the time when there was no cell phone. So I couldn't even warn her.
Oh dear.
You know, like these kids have it so good today.
You
Like
could
it's
have
just,
said he's out with George's sister.
yeah.
Like, with George's sister.
But her mother knew me. Like she knew,
Yeah.
she'd have been like, oh yeah, what's sister's name? They're Italian. They'll put you under interrogation.
Yeah.
What's sister's name? How old is sister? What school does she go to? Yeah.
Yeah.
What does she look like? What color's her hair? When's her birthday? I'd be like, oh shit. I'd be like, I don't know.
That's too
She's a new
much.
friend. She's a new friend. Well, we don't do new friends, Lisa. You know that. Why would you let her go be with a new friend? Are you trying to get her killed? I'd be
Not her mother.
like, listen, the guilt is really heavy right now. I need a minute. But anyone who's Italian or ethnic will tell you that's like, or like European, they're like, oh yeah, the guilt is a thing. The guilt is a thing. Guilt trips.
Mine with Catholic, the guilt is a thing all by itself.
There you go, right? I know, I always bug people. I always say, because I didn't grow up Catholic, but I went to a Catholic school and I have lots of Catholic friends, but I saw this reel one day and I was like, oh my God, this is so accurate. It said, those that are Catholic haven't been to hell. Those that are spiritual have been to hell and know not to return. And I was like, oh,
I like that.
is that why I'm spiritual? Well, that makes sense.
Yep.
A lot of things are kind of coming together.
For sure.
But yeah, so
Clever.
it's been an interesting journey for myself too. I know you and I talked about having, very tumultuous relationships and how we kind of got through that as women. And like you said, I agree with you. Success is the best revenge.
Yeah.
It is. And and we all fall victim to some of our traumas for a little while, Sue, and there's nothing wrong with that. What I'm talking about is these people we're talking like years, like we're talking more than 5, 10, 15 years. This is the I'm going to remain a victim for the rest of my life. And the story never fucking changes. And you're just like, what are you doing? So that's where I say to you, we all get into these, situationships, whether it's a relationship with someone, whether it's a friendship, whatever. And we get screwed over and we are victimized by this person. And yes, we live in that headspace for a little bit, whether it's a year, whether it's 5 years. We live in that headspace. I lived in the headspace of what I went through with my kids and their father while I was with him and about 5 years afterward. And, I'll be honest. I mean, my son made me very proud because he was the reason that everything kind of stopped, because he told his father it's enough. Like my mother, what you're saying about my mother isn't true. Like you need to stop. You don't know what's going on. He's the kind of guy, because I hate to say this, but this is a narcissist thing. I'm going to go hurt my own feelings and then have something to be mad about. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. And that's just the thing. And so then when my son was like, no, that's not a thing. Mom doesn't do that. Mom's good. But, but then I was lucky because my son he's me. He's my little firecracker, that one. He's so funny. Like I just went to Mexico, as you know. I dropped a podcast on it because that was a bloody nightmare. So I went to Mexico with a girlfriend of mine, and it was the wrong friend to go with. She was all about she's like double income, no kids. Mm-hmm. And so she came with me, and she's like, any other day of the week, I'd have nothing but glowing things to say about her. But this trip, I was like, oh my God, like it was like Girls Gone Wild. And it wasn't something that I wanted to do with my kids. Like, I don't think that you should ever tell somebody how to vacation. They're paying the money to go as well.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
when your kids are involved and kind of put on their itinerary and this, that, the other thing, because you're trying to help your friend to be able to afford that trip, and they start making some kind of weird decisions that you're kind of like, don't do that. My kids are attached to it. And as a parent, in hindsight's 2020. I
Yeah.
mean, the relationship that I had with her as a person, she's not a bad person. She's a good person. And she was great with my daughter. They got along really well. There was no reason for me to be like, this is going to turn sour. Like there was nothing there. There's no indication from her. But then of course, hindsight's 2020. And then when I'm there and shit's going down and I'm like, holy shit, Lisa, you had all the signs and you just chose to ignore them.
Mhm.
And now you're sitting here and your kid is being rerouted to Toronto with her, and you and your kid are going back to Calgary, and your daughter that is rerouting with her has high anxiety. Now what are you going to do? And my
Yeah.
daughter's bawling her eyes out. She's terrified. She doesn't know any of her family in Toronto other than my brother, who's about 3.5 hours away. But the nice thing I will tell you is that, and this is something that no matter what goes on in your world, and I think you can agree with this, Sue, is support systems. They're so necessary. They're so necessary. And when I tap my support systems, they are jumping. And especially when it comes to kids, they will jump. And I'm so blessed to have them. And I mean, like people can, piss and moan about WestJet because I was taking a WestJet flight. But you know what? WestJet did their job. I'm not going to run to WestJet and be like, because this is how I look at things, because I'm a spiritualist. Okay. So on my way from the Mayan Riviera to Cancun airport, I was almost in tears thinking, how am I going to fucking fix this? How am I going to make sure my daughter is on my itinerary and move this around? Please. Like I'm begging the universe. I will do anything. And I ended up with a rep. So a manager at WestJet in the Cancun airport she ended up overriding my third party because she got pissed off with them because there was so much red tape, and it was a WestJet issue. Right. So she rerouted us. And then I said, I don't have to go back to Calgary. I don't care. As long as my daughter and my son are with me, I don't care where you send us. As long as it's Canadian soil, I'll figure it out. And she was like, no. She's like, it's okay. We're going to reroute you to Toronto, and then we're going to put you on a flight back to Calgary. And I said, fine. And they said, we're going to pay for your hotel and we're going to pay for your meal. And I said, fine. And I was happy with that. So for me, don't kick a gift horse in the mouth.
Yeah.
I begged. She did it for me. She made sure we were all on the same flights. She made sure we were in the same row coming back from Toronto to Calgary. I'm not upset with what WestJet did. And a lot of people are like, oh, you should go get your money back. Nope. I'm like, this was something they didn't have to do. They could have just kept running me around and my daughter could have been rerouted and I could have ended up back in Calgary, and it would have just went even more sideways. And I'm like, so the way I look at it is the universe heard me. She was the instrument that helped facilitate this. I'm happy. To me, they did their job. And you know what? Shit happens at airlines. And here's the thing that people have to remember. Yes, it's an inconvenience. Yes, it's a pain in the ass, but I'd rather the plane get turned around and get the maintenance it needs on it than to come try pick me up and then there's a problem.
Yeah.
In the air. So everyone needs to look at that as not a bad thing. So people are inconvenienced so easily and then just blow it out of proportion. Of course we're inconvenienced. Shit happens, but there's a reason it happens. Do you want to be, 40,000 feet in the air, 100,000 feet in the air, and someone say, oh yeah, well, looks like we lost an engine. No, I don't.
Or, hey guys, we don't have enough fuel.
Right? We're going to have to make the landing here, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And it'd be like an open field because there's no airports around. Like, that's what that's what I'm saying. Like everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
And for me, I people are like, are you mad at your friend? I'm like, in the moment, I was very upset. I was very upset, but it was a massive learning curve for me, for my support systems, for my daughter, for her, my friend. Everything was a learning curve. This trip was meant to happen because there were so many things. My daughter got to watch my support systems get engaged at 14 years old, and how quickly people will run for you when you have those support systems in place, and how many people actually love her. She saw how hard her mother fought to make sure that she was on the same plane with her. She watched all those things. She got to see what it is to be, championed what it is
Yeah.
to advocate.
Yeah.
And I tell my daughter, this is what mom does for a living. She advocates. And I'm
Yeah.
like, if I can't advocate for my own children and for myself, I'm no
Yeah.
good to anybody else.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and then, I mean,
Yeah.
like, I learned the lesson, like, don't be an idiot and put your kid on somebody else's itinerary, stupid. I mean, like, that was, I kind of shit on myself for that one. And I'm like, that's totally like a focus moment for me, like a fuck off because you're stupid moment. 100%. 100%. I'm not even I'm not even going to sit here and be like, oh, I didn't know. And she went crazy. You know what? I didn't know. It's my fault.
Yeah.
I had her originally on my itinerary. You don't know what's going to happen with the airlines. You can't just, in a perfect world, everything goes the way it's supposed to in a perfect world,
Right.
but we don't live in a perfect world.
Yeah.
So for me, that will never be a thing. It doesn't matter who it is, how close they are. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
If it's not my mom, it's not me, it's not happening, because my daughter and my mom are like, like that. So
Yeah.
if my daughter got rerouted somewhere with my mother, she'd be happy as a clam. She'd be like, okay, we're going to go do this, Nan. I'd be like, oh God.
Yeah.
So, but that's it. Those are the only, it's me or my mom or she'll end up on their itinerary. And then my son,
Yeah.
it's like, I mean, he travels with his dad. He went to Seattle with his father. He said he had an okay time. I'm super glad his older brother was there, because now, my ex has children from another marriage that are much older. So his kids are actually closer to my age than I am to his age. But his kids are great. And so they have half siblings. My kids are their half siblings.
Yeah.
And I was super grateful that his brother and wife went with the father, because then he had a really great time. Like I know his brother's very successful. He's smart. His wife is very intelligent. She's an accountant. Both very intelligent. They are double income, no kids. And really they're good people, but I know that there's I feel like his brother needs to get some therapy, because there's a lot of traumas there from the dad, and I know there is. I know that he's a good person deep down inside. Their mother is amazing. I was friends with their mother. I wouldn't say I'm not anymore. We just don't talk as much, but she's a wonderful person. And I'm like, when I met her, I was like, oh, I already know who the problem is.
Yeah.
Because it's not her. Because he would be like, oh,
Yeah.
well, she did this. And I'm like, oh, what'd you do? Nothing. Oh, you did nothing. Okay. But, and so
Might
we used
want
to
to look
crack
at
the-
that.
What's that? Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So it's my favorite thing that he always says, oh, I didn't do anything. Are you sure? Because I met the person that had your two children, and she's delightful. I really like her. Matter of fact, I support her ceramic business. I have actually ceramics I purchased from her that she made. I have a whole bunch of them. And I was like, and I said, so if she's lovely, and I, as your current partner who is pregnant with your child, genuinely likes your ex and your children, I'm going to go with you're the problem. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
But and I think for me, and it's one of those things that us women do, is that some women it's a fixing mentality, right? I can
Yes.
fix the way he sees the world. I can
Yeah.
fix the relationship between him and his ex. I can fix.
Yeah.
It was a project.
Yeah.
And I decoupaged as much as I could. And then the fucking glue fell apart. Happened.
I can relate. Relate.
Yeah. So, and I think a lot of us women do that. There's some, but then have you seen some of these women? Like, some of these women are very entitled for what they ask for. It's very interesting for me. Like when even, when I'm doing some of my podcasts and I'm talking about women in trades. And I mean, like, you're over on the engineering side right now, and you're a director over on the engineering side. And it's still an aspect of trades. Engineering is still an aspect of trades. You're on site, you're dealing with construction. You guys have to put your stamp on stuff. And I've met some of your people there, and they're amazing. They're great people, and they are very down to earth, which is nice. You don't want to work with people that have an ego this big, especially when you're dealing with engineers. I say that, and it's true. Everyone knows it's true. But anyway,
it is true.
But yeah, so you have a really great team that's behind you, and that you're behind. So, but us women in trades, there's so many stigmas about us, that we're bitches or like either. So this is what I've been told. Okay. Either you're the bitch or you're the mom. That's it.
Yeah.
You're the mom, you're nurturing, you're taking care of everybody, you're running after them, you're taking the bullshit, blah, blah, blah. You're always available. And then you're the bitch. You don't put up with any shit and you're very clear and direct. And I'm like, well, I'm the bitch. I'm a mother at home.
Yeah.
I have children that I have to do that with. I've changed diapers. I've had to do formula. I've done breastfeeding. I'm not doing any of those things with anybody else. Those are that's reserved for my children. And they're now old enough that they can now wipe their own asses and feed themselves. Yep. So I'm sorry your mother struggled. Maybe I should send her a basket. But that's the thing, right? So it's one of those things where people will say, oh, well, like Lisa's a bitch. And I'm like, oh. So I went out and I bought a pin and it says, like bitch extraordinaire. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what I did with it. It's somewhere, but I haven't had to use it in a while because as you get older, it's funny. Once you hit certain points of getting older, like once I hit 40, I toned down a bit. Like I was full of piss and vinegar in other areas. Mm-hmm. So before in my 30s, I was like, I'm going to go toe to toe with everybody, like verbally toe to toe. And I think that only really, actually, I was like that since I was a teenager. I think that actually calmed down probably right around 41, around then. And then I just kind of went, you know what?
You get a little tact and diplomacy, I think, as you get older that you're missing when you're younger.
True. But I also think it has to do with time. Your time is precious. Your peace is precious. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, why am I going to have an argument with you when I think you're a moron? And then there's like that story. I've heard this story 100 times. It's called The Tiger and the Ass. Have you heard that story?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Yeah. So if I'm the tiger, why am I going to argue with an ass? Mm-hmm. And the tiger always gets punished because they're being stupid by allowing this person to dictate something they know is wrong and then involve other people when really they already have the answer. So why are you wasting your time and mine?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So as the tiger, you get your hand slapped. So it's like, I choose to be the lion in this situation and slap hands. Yeah. But it's true. I just get more quiet. I'm just like, well, I'll usually do the, is that smart?
Yeah.
Try it. Let me know how it works out for you. even my girlfriend that I went on my trip with, like I said my piece and I was very diplomatic about it. And I was just like, because 10 years ago, less than 10 years ago, I would have been like, I would have chastised her for what she did. And now at this particular junction in my life, I'm like, listen, this is what I'm not happy about. This was my lesson and my takeaway, and you're allowed to do whatever you want on a trip.
Yeah.
I wasn't the right person to take on that trip with you.
Right.
We know that now.
Yeah.
But she right away went to, well, we're not friends. And I'm like, that's okay. We don't need to be friends. If that's, if what you take out of the interaction that happened because I'm a fierce protective mother and you took that as we're not friends anymore, that's okay. Yeah. I can't perceive your, she went and hurt her own feelings. Yeah. I didn't hurt her feelings. I mean, I probably did a little bit. My looks could, if looks could kill, she'd have been dead, but that's
fierce protective mother and all.
That's a mother, right? When you're like, I'm not going to lie, when shit is affecting my children, or impacting them negatively, I'm savage. Yeah. Like I'm right wild. Like there's a reason why they call it the mother bear. Yeah. I
agree completely.
Yeah.
I had issues with both of my children with their high school and they were sorry they ever saw that side of me.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's true. And then I feel bad for the schools now, though. If I'm being honest with you, I do feel bad for the schools now. Um, they're so scared. The teachers, the faculty, they're running
Mhm.
scared because parents are lawyering for their kids instead of refereeing them and being like, "What are you doing?" And I'm the old school parent. So
Mhm.
I walk into the school. I remember I went into the school, kids school, and Jocelyn's teacher had said, "Well, Jocelyn, she was very like tiptoey about it."
Mhm.
Excuse me. She's like, "Jocelyn was kind of rude to me the other day." This is how she said it to me. "Jocelyn was kind of rude to me the other day." And I said, "Oh, was she? What'd she do?" And she said, "Well, I asked her if she was coming to class, and she said, I don't feel like doing French." And I was like, "Oh, did she?" And she's like, "Yeah, I thought I'd just bring that to your attention." And I was like, "Oh, I'm glad you did." And I'm like, "That's not acceptable. You're an educator." I'm like, "My daughter shouldn't be speaking to anybody like that, especially her elders and her educators. That's not acceptable. And whenever there's a problem like that, or if she ever speaks out of turn, or if she ever sasses you, I want an email because I'm going to deal with her at home." I said, "She'll be
Mhm.
apologizing to you tomorrow for that." And she's like, "Oh, it happened a week ago." I said, "I don't care if it happened 2 months ago. She will be apologizing for that type of behavior." And she was like, "Oh, okay." And then I wrote an email to the school saying, "If my kids are on their phones, take them away. They can get them back at
Mhm.
the end of the day." I'm
Yep.
like, "There's nothing urgent. Even if I'm texting them, it's not urgent."
Yep.
Um, I'm like, "If my kids talk back, I want to know about it. If my kids aren't handing in assignments, I want to know about it. I need you guys to know that I am on your side to help you help my children gain an
Mhm.
education.
Yep.
You are not their babysitter. You are someone who's supposed to be supportive and their cheerleaders and helping them to maneuver through this part of their life. And
Mhm.
if there's any disrespect, I want to know about it." And let me
Yeah.
tell you, like the school, I know the school loves me because of my attitude. They like the teachers know I'm not going to go in there and bark at them. I'm going to bark at the kids
Mhm.
before I bark at them because that's how it should be.
Yes, I
You,
agree. I
it,
agree with that.
yeah.
The situation with my kids, my son was goth in high school,
Mm,
and the teachers, it was new at the school. The teachers weren't kind of prepared. They, you could tell that they discriminated against him because of it.
that's a
He got a
problem.
burst appendix, went to the nurse's office,
Hmm.
and he kept on crying, "Will somebody call my mom? Won't somebody call my mom, please? Please call
Hmm.
my mom. I want my mom."
Yeah.
They left him in a room unattended. Nobody called me. I
Mm-mm.
came to the school. He was kicked at 3:30 in the afternoon, kicked in the boot because he was sleeping. And they said, "Hey, if you've got a bus to catch or something, you better get going." So he got up, burst appendix. So he got up and he began to come out the front. I, for some reason, I guess mother's instinct, I
Yeah.
went to the school to pick him up. I don't usually, he walks home. If he would have walked home that day, he would have died on his way.
Yeah.
I picked him up. I got him to the hospital. The hospital said, "Why on earth has this child been neglected? Not been brought in here until now?" And I said, "This, the school didn't call me. He had been suffering at school all day long." And so I picked him. So he ended up having an emergency surgery. Then the school is calling. "Oh, how's Dan? How's Dan?" You know what? Dan is none of your freaking business. And if he dies, expect a lawsuit that is going to just pummel the education system here and close this damn school down for a change. The other situation was my daughter was touched and the teacher didn't report. Not only did the teacher not report, but when we brought it to
Yeah.
the principal stood up for the teacher and said, if my daughter couldn't identify exactly who that teacher was or who the kid was, because the kid had a twin, then there was nothing that they could do. I reported it to the cop at the school, and he just turned it back on her. And I said, "I should have gone to the real police." He said, "I am the real police." I said,
No,
"Then
you're
act
not.
like it."
Yeah.
I was furious.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that was the same faculty for each child. And honestly, I could have,
Yeah.
boy,
But
the
those are,
things I could have done. Talk about
yeah.
Mother Bear.
Yeah.
And I
But
wanted
those
to
are different
take it public.
situations. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie to you. Like, I went into the school here not long ago. My son, a girl struck him and hurt him. So he was playing with a kazoo and she struck him in the face and the kazoo
Oh.
lodged in his throat, like just like damaged the top of the roof of his mouth.
Yeah.
And he came home. I wasn't called, wasn't told about anything, didn't know anything. And I went into the school and I was on fire. And I was like, you know that I support the faculty. You know that I'll help you guys to educate my children, but you guys are also supposed to keep my children safe. And I'm like, that little girl needs to get the full length of punishment. My son did not touch her. Yeah. I raised my son not to raise his hand at a younger child and at a woman or a girl.
Yeah.
Don't. Yeah. And I said, I'm like, every other parent is like, if they hit you, hit them back. That's always been the way. And I'm like, but I have said, do not start hitting girls now because you'll continue to do it as you grow. And I'm not doing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I said, don't hit girls. And my son didn't touch her. He didn't hurt her. And so then she got like, in my opinion, she got minimal repercussions. And I said to my son, I said, you know what, honey? I said, don't worry about it. I said, girls like that, they grow up to be victims. She'll be a victim of some sort.
The kid that touched my daughter didn't even get suspended. Nothing. Yeah. Nothing happened to him.
She got a 1 day in school suspension. And then her and her friends went after my son and were like, oh, well, you did this and you whined about that. And I'm like, no, you didn't. I'm like, you have to stand up for, and you know what? I will say this. All the boys that were there all stood up for him and said,
oh, that
awesome. Happened. Yeah. And the parents supported that. They were like, no, we want them to tell the truth.
Nice.
So the one thing I told my son is I said, as long as you stick together and realize that your mental health matters, someone putting their hands on you, whether they're male or female, is not okay. And you stand up for your friends. I'm like, your friends, all your male friends stood beside you and said that happened.
Yeah.
We saw it. And they all had the same story. There was nobody like went off on some like little whatever. And my son was like, I know, Mom. And I said, that's a good thing. I'm like, because a lot of people don't want to get involved.
Yeah.
And their parents encouraged them to tell the truth.
Yeah.
So I'm like, that's a great thing. And I'm like, and that's what you need to do for your friend when something happens. And he's like, no, I know, Mom. But what happened with your two kids, like, that's disgusting. Your son had a ruptured appendix and they're just like, whatever. And because they discriminated against the way he looked, like, that's absolutely preposterous. But then you know what, Sue? You would understand what goes on in the schools for these kids that are transgender or these kids that are, they're going through the same thing. Yeah. You're different. We don't want to deal with you.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter. People are people, children are children, regardless of what how they want to associate or identify or, however they want to express themselves.
Yeah.
Does not give you the right to pass judgment and stop them from getting the critical care they require.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Especially in a life and death situation. I mean, they're lucky that everything ended up okay.
Yeah.
But holy crap, what a chance to take.
Disgusting. That's disgusting.
Yeah. I just,
and parents have like lots of parents have horror stories. I mean, I've got a girlfriend of mine, Jocelyn, had a little best friend there forever. They're still friends, but they're not best friends anymore. And Jocelyn's, and I remember the mother and I were friends and we chit chat. And she was telling me that her son, who's older than her daughter, he was just like relentlessly bullied at the school and the school did nothing. They say zero tolerance for bullying, but it's just bullshit. And then when I called the cops on that little girl, because she was 11, I called the cops and said, I want her charged. And they're like, we can't, she's 11. And I said, bullshit. Charge her.
Absolutely.
She's causing bodily harm. And
or at least go to her home.
Yeah.
And say, there is this incident that we'd like to talk to you about. I mean, at least scare her. Do something to stop the violence at 11.
Right? Like, she's this violent at 11? Like, she's going to beat her husband.
Yeah.
She's either going to beat her husband or she's going to end up in a violent relationship. And that's I don't wish that for any girl. I don't wish that for any girl. But if you're going to act like this, there's going to be consequences because not every guy is going to take that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anyway, that was my little ditty. And thank you for telling me that story. My God, that's wild. And then your daughter, like, come on.
I know.
You're like, at that point, you're like, why did I put her in this school? My brother and I, we went to different schools. My older brother and I, my brother and I both went to the same elementary. And then he went French immersion, junior high, high school, and I went Catholic, junior high, high school. And so we had completely different friends. But
Yeah.
I would have ended up with like all of his friends' siblings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My kids were pretty far apart in age. There's 9 years difference in my
Yeah.
kids, so they definitely don't have
God,
any common
that's even
friends.
worse. Same faculty,
I
and it's like
know.
9
So
years
9
later.
years later, the school is still screwed.
Right? Stupid.
Yeah.
I know my brother and I are 4.5 years apart. My brother, I think he graduated in 96, 95, 96. I think he graduated, and I graduated in 99. So,
My
yeah.
son graduated 2000.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
You look great, Bill. You look great.
My grandchildren will be
Did you start
not
when you were
going to
10?
that school.
Did you
Pardon?
start when you
I
were 10?
didn't. I was a respectable almost 20.
I know. I'm just saying you look great.
Thank you.
So and that's right, you have grandchildren. How old are your grandkids?
7 and almost 3.
Oh,
She'll be 3 in May.
I love that. And are they both your sons?
Nope, they're both my daughters,
Okay. Your daughter had kids.
Charlotte and Addison.
Oh, the little ones.
Yes, the little ones, Charlotte and Addison. They're
cute.
awesome.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
bet. And are they here?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
they're
nice.
just on the other side of the Bow River from me.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I love that. And does your son live here too?
Yep, he does.
Okay. Oh,
He's
that's
not
nice.
having children.
Then he's like, no bueno.
Yeah, he says, "No, thank you." I
You know what
didn't
though?
provide him with the most loving male role models. So
But
he's like, "Wow, this parent thing, no thank you."
yeah, but you know what though? And too many people get shit on for that. And I'm like, you know what? I think it's great if you know you don't want to have kids.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I think a perfect example of this is I've got girlfriends of mine that are single, and I've got girlfriends of mine that are married that don't have kids, and I'm like, good on you.
Yeah.
And they're like, sometimes I think, and I'm like, that's society. That's not you second guessing yourself is society. That's not, you've made your choice. I'm like, you get to a certain point in life. So if you're like, I don't want to have kids when I'm 25, 35 rolls around, you're still like, I don't want to have kids. By the time you're 40, that decision was already made. Could you have kids at 40? Sure, you could.
Yeah.
Sure, you could. But usually by the time you're 40, the last thing you want to do is start over again. I know, like, my other half was like, we should have a baby. I was like, you should shut the fuck up. I was like, I'm out of diapers. I'm in my 40s. What's happening? And then my mom's like, oh, Lisa, your Nana, her last baby she had at 44. And I was like, ew. No. 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 But
Uh-huh.
yeah, I have my babies. I'm happy with my babies.
Yeah.
And I've always been the kind of person that my thing is that I wanted to have 2 children by the same person and be done with it. That was kind of my thing. Actually, I would have loved to have had, had I met the right person, I would have had like 5 kids because I love kids. But my 2 kids, I mean, they're the same dad. So, I mean, and I love them to death. And I mean, like, even though my other half came along and he's more like he's more my soulmate kind of type person. Of course I would have loved to have had children with him, but that just wasn't in the cards for us. And I'm not going to go and do anything that's going to try and help that along. Like, not at this point in my life. At this point in my life, it's just, you have your kids, I have my kids. Let's kind of blend the families on a couple of vacations. But other than that, you live with them and I live with mine. Because I'm really big on the whole having separate spaces. Yeah. I don't want to play house. I mean, maybe for like a weekend, but then go home. Let's have a slumber party, but then you got to go home, okay?
Yeah. Sunday, 10 o'clock. Aren't you gone yet?
Yeah. What are we doing today? I don't know what we're doing today, but I'm doing this and you're going home.
Yeah.
I've had enough of this. But you know what? It would be him because he's such a homebody and such a quiet guy that it would be like he's the kind of guy that will say things like, I don't have the energy for you today. He's that guy.
Yeah.
Babe, I don't have the bandwidth for your bullshit. I get that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, but I'm funny. He's like, no.
Yeah.
Actually, what he says is, yeah, you're funny. And I'm like, but you didn't laugh. He's like, oh, I'm laughing on the inside. I'm like, this man he makes me crazy. Because I'm just
Yeah.
like, I'll say something and I think it's so funny, Sue, and I'll just start laughing. I'm like, hee, this is hilarious. I'm so funny. And he's like, uh-huh. And I'm like, babe, it was funny.
I have been known to say to Barry, "Oh no, I can't do all this today."
Too
It's
much.
like, don't you have somewhere to go? Because I can't do this today.
This is not working.
Yeah.
I
Oh
know.
no.
Yeah,
Off you
that's
go.
yeah, that's my other half. He's always like he's got a very demanding job right now. And so he's up to his eyeballs in stress. So I'm always like,
Yeah.
I try to make him feel better. I'll try and talk to him, but really what he just wants is he just wants a sounding board. So I'm just
Mhm.
like, okay, tell me about it. I'm a turkey, baste me. And he's like, mm-hmm. But then he tells me what's going on, and then I'll like make like little, I think I'm being funny, and I'll like slide in
Mhm.
like little jokes. He'll be like this guy's being a baby, blah 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 blah. And I'm like, I could be your baby. You want to come hold me? He's just he's he's like, what the hell is wrong with you? And I'm like, what? I'm listening. He's like, are you listening? I'm like, I'm listening.
You said you wanted to be my sounding board. My sounding board doesn't talk back. Just shut up and listen.
That's right. He's like, sounding board requires listening skills. No tucky tucky. But I'm so funny and you're so stressed out and I wanted to say something funny. Or like right in the middle of his conversation, I'll be like, do you want to make out? And he's like, oh my God. And he's like,
Just for you.
right? And he goes, yes, but can you just shut up? And I'm like, I always pull that on him. Like just random. You want to make out? And he's like, and then he'll be like, oh, yes, but. And I'm like, no. There's
No, it's
no
supposed
but.
to be yes and.
Right. Or I'll call him and be like, he'll start talking to me about whatever's going on in Israel. I'll be like, what are you wearing? And he's like, you just saw me 20 minutes ago. And I'm like, come on, play along. It's funny. He's like, I don't have the energy for you today. Poor guy.
I get that that's a common sentence in your family.
Well, I mean, my son, I mean, I know I've heard myself say that to my son where I've said to him, I don't have the energy for you today. And then I'm like, oh my God, I'm turning into my other half. You know? But my son is like, you know, those, have you ever watched those reels online? The parkour where there's like an animal parkouring around your furniture and around like your house. That's my son. My son will parkour. And I'm like, don't jump on the couch. You're going to break the back. Don't jump off the table. Get off the counter. Don't jump down the stairs. Stop it. And then I was making a joke one day. My kids heard me and they were like, I knew you loved Jocelyn more. And I was like, no, it's not what I said. They said, you know, a parent has a favorite depending on which kid falls and who they run for. And I burst out laughing because I'm like, yeah, if Jocelyn falls, I'm running because she doesn't normally fall. But my son falls, he's parkouring everywhere. I'm like, yep, shake it off.
Yeah.
I don't move from the couch.
Yeah.
And he's like, Mama. And I'm like, what happened? Mama. And I'm like, come here again. And then I'm like, get off the couch slow, walk over. What did you do? Yeah, okay. Let's look at it.
Shake it off. You're fine.
And it doesn't mean that Jocelyn's my favorite. And it doesn't mean that I love him any less. It's just
Exactly.
He's more accident prone because of his choices.
Yeah. That's the difference between my granddaughters also.
Yeah.
My granddaughter, Charlotte, the 7-year-old, she has become quite the lady. We go and get our nails done now.
Mm.
And we have tea, the nail salon.
Yeah, I saw the picture.
Yeah. And my granddaughter, Addison, is the next Evil Knievel or something. She's gone down the basement stairs 4 times now.
Oh, geez.
And every time I go over there, she's got a new bruise. Oh, Nana, look, I did this. And I say, wow, that looks like it hurts. How did you do that? I fell down the basement stairs. I said, you still doing that?
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
I said, why? Doesn't it hurt? Yeah, but it's okay.
I got
Okay.
to give it to her. She's a tough
Do
little
it
cookie
again then.
because my son, like if mom's around, it's waterworks. And
Oh,
it's my fault. I'm totally a suck for my son, but I do tell him every once in a while, I'm like, rub some dirt in it. It's fine.
yeah.
It's just a scratch. It's a surface. I'm like, it's all up here.
Yeah.
And he's just like, Mom. And I'm like, you're fine. But so now he's at a point now, because he's at an age now where if the waterworks are going to happen,
Mm-hmm.
he would rather mom be there because then he can hide his face in me, right?
Yes, of course.
Yeah. Because he is at a point now where he just kind of shakes it off. Because between myself and his dad, who's very old school, we're like, shake it off, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Unless it's broken.
Yeah.
Anything poking through your skin? Any
Yeah.
blood?
Are you bleeding?
Okay,
Is it
you're
broken?
fine.
Yeah. Bleeding or broken? Let's see.
Yeah.
I mean, like he's come at me and he's like showed me like, when you're in the gym and they get like the gym burns.
Yeah.
On your knees.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's just a couple layers of skin. You're fine. He's like, Mom, it hurts. I'm like, well, we'll put some polysporin on it and take an Advil. Meanwhile, my parents had the fucking Bactine spray.
Oh. Yeah.
I know.
You think it hurts now? I'll show you hurt.
Right?
Yeah. That was my mother's favorite. My mother's favorite was, I'll give you something to cry about.
Yeah,
it's like,
I've heard that one.
I'm not crying anymore.
Yeah, I'll give you something to cry about. Yeah, I've heard that one lots. Yeah, it was a good one. My dad was like that. My dad was like, would you like something to cry about? And I'm like, no. Which is funny because it's what made us not big criers in front of people.
Yeah.
Right? Do I cry? Sure I do. Not very often, but I do cry, and it's not usually in front of people. You have to be in a certain realm of my world for me to cry in front of you. Otherwise it doesn't happen. Yeah. So it is what it is. Yeah.
Tough broads.
I know. And you said was your little granddaughter. She's a tough little thing, right? Because my son,
Yes, she is. Yes, she is.
3 years old, he'd be crying. Although he did break his arm at just before he was 2 years old, and he didn't cry. Mind you, if I'm being totally honest, I breastfed my son till he was 2, which was, it was a mistake. It's a funny story. Anyway, so I did breastfeed him until he was 2 years old. So when he broke his arm at like 20 months or 21 months, I brought him into the Fernie Hospital with a broken arm, clean break, and he's sleeping, sucking on a boobie. And they're like, and the doctor's like, did he have any Advil or Tylenol? I was like, no. They're like, this kid has no pain meds. And I'm like, no. And they're like, yeah, he fractured one part of his arm and broke, like clean break his arm, and he's not crying. And I'm like, well, I am a Reiki master. And they're like, well, what does that mean? And I'm like, well, Reiki master means I can train you, but I'm a Reiki practitioner. So I manipulate energy. Plus I'm mom, plus he's got boobs and he's male. So I figure like it's like a triple win at this point. And the doctor started laughing. And they're like, you're a Reiki? You're a Reiki master? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, and I'm like, yeah, I was actually at a fair. I was like, I had like a whole bunch of stuff to go to this fair. It was good, right? I had a whole bunch of this stuff to go to the fair. So I had like sage and beads and all kinds of cool stuff that I was selling at the fair when I was more involved in that side of my spiritual side. And they're like, could you do some stuff to our emergency room and our OR in the Fernie Hospital? And I was like, sure. I walked in there and did some stuff, cleared everything out. Yeah. And they're like, I totally believe in this. They're like, a child has never come in like sleeping with a broken arm.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
this common.
Yeah. I'm like, but yeah, it was a pretty interesting thing. So, but I mean, like, it is what it is. And my son's fine, but he had a little cast on. He was so cute. He had a little, cause we're in BC. So they were like, well, we can make it like these different colors. And I was like, camo. They had camo masks or camo casts. So we had a camo cast. So cute. I have pictures of him running around. This little camo cast. Yeah.
Of course, everybody was looking at him and looking at you and looking at your husband and going, child with a broken arm, right?
It's not wrong.
All the judgments you had that you didn't even know.
It's probably not wrong. I mean, the doctor loved me. But yeah, dad's older than you. So, because I know how old you are. And so
Oh,
my
he's
ex is
really
older.
old then.
He's older than you. Yeah.
Really old.
He's not really old. I mean, he's really old. You're not really old. My kids bug me all the time. They're like, Mom, why did you choose dad? And I'm like, well, if I'm being completely honest, I didn't think I could have children. I had surgeries, this, that, and the other thing, guys. I'm super happy that you're here because I really wanted children, but I didn't think it was in the cards for me. So when I got together with your dad, it was kind of like sure, I'll hang out with you for like a year and have like a dating thing. And then that would be it. And then that's kind of what was happening. And our year had kind of come up and lapsed. And I had said, okay, well, I'm kind of done. And he was like, well, just wait. If you want to have kids, we can have kids. And I was just like, oh, okay, whatever. We're not going to have kids. And then not even like exactly today, like a month later, I got pregnant with Jocelyn. And I was like, oh, whoops. So, and then I wasn't going to test fate, right? I wasn't going to be like, well, this isn't who I want to have a child with, but I wanted a child so badly that I was like, make it work, like, what you kind of have an idea of what he's about, but see if you can't just make it work with this person. Like everyone's human. Everyone has a different way of looking at things. And I tried and it didn't work. And,
My children's father was 10 years older than me too.
What's that?
My children's father is 10 years older than me.
Their dad is 24 years older than me.
Depending on your age, that's at the time. That was.
Yeah. Well, he's a couple years younger than my mom. Yeah.
What did your parents think of that?
What's that?
What did your parents think of that?
My mom is like, whatever. My mom is very la-di-da. She's kind of like my puppy where she's like happy about everything. If you're happy, I'm happy. Yay. My dad was 12 years older than him, was 12 years older than him. So my dad was just my dad couldn't really be a hypocrite because he dated younger women. So he could be a hypocrite. So when my dad would try and say something, I was like, you need to shut your mouth. But it wasn't, I wasn't trying to have kids with him. I mean, I wasn't. As in like you're engaging in that type of relationship, then you know what I mean? Shit can happen or kids can happen. But I didn't think kids could be a thing. So when the kids came along, I'm grateful for the kids.
Of course. Yeah.
I'm happy. And I was supposed to have them with him. So it is what it is. Like I don't have any regrets in my life. So many people have these regrets and I'm like, don't, because if you have regrets, then you are where you are. You wouldn't be where you are if you have regrets and could go back and change it. So when people say to me, would you go back and change it? No, I wouldn't have my children if I went back and changed it.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. You might have different children, but you wouldn't have these children.
Right. So, and I love these children. If you could say to me, I could take you back 20 years and wipe your brain. Well, that does me no good because the amount of knowledge that I have now would be an asset 20 years ago.
And all of the lessons and
exactly,
just everything, experiences.
Well, knowledge is power.
Knowledge is power.
So I don't know if I would say yes to that. Yeah. Having to redo it all with the same shitty attitude and the chip on my shoulder and Jesus Christ, that girl needs to just stay in the past.
Yeah.
I'm not discontent with my life at all. Like of course there's always things you could change, but then it comes down to, do you really want to change it? Like I'm a big advocate for change, but only if it's really necessary.
Yeah.
Right. If it's not really necessary, I'm kind of like in the mix of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If it ain't broke, but you need to fix it to help, keep to catch you up. It's like, I need the latest computer because my old computer is no longer, at a speed where I can keep up with the demand of my work.
Right.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. As in like your computer works okay, but now you need something because you're scaling. So then it's like, it's a must change. Right.
But see, that's how I view personal development. So people get to a certain plateau. Some people think that they're perfect and nothing needs to change.
And
Okay,
there's a lot
you've
of
got
those.
those.
Yeah.
There's others that say, I've learned a lot and I've gotten to this level and I'm really happy at this level. So
Mm.
they're kind of done. People like me, I always strive to be better. What else can I learn?
Yep.
What more? When the whole situation with the fraud and everything happened, I was hospitalized for a period.
Oh,
In
I'm
that
sorry.
hospitalization, I was told that, you know what? Think of it this way. You had reached a certain plateau and you would have otherwise stayed there. But this is pushing you now, and I'm going to teach you, new coping skills and new ways of looking at things and a whole new a breakthrough from the plateau I was into a whole new realm of mental fitness.
Oh, that's
It's
great.
and how could you then, be anything but kind of a little bit oddly grateful for the situation.
I agree with you.
So I'm
Like,
always on the personal development side. I'm always, always, always trying to learn new things and new ways. And, what else can I learn?
I'm going to be honest with you, Sue. I mean, based on what I'm hearing from you, that is that is a psychological mind fuck what you went through to know that you lost basically everything you'd ever
Everything.
worked your ass off. Now
Yep.
you don't know how you're going to be able to do all the things you want to do. Your brain goes in so many different realms. It is psychological warfare.
Absolutely.
It is
100%.
abuse to the nth
A
degree.
100%. I
You
mean,
know,
all
yeah.
my RRSPs are gone, all of
Yep.
my, bankruptcy. So
That's
everything
terrifying,
is
especially someone,
ripped apart.
yeah, that worked really hard to put themselves in a financial position where that would never be a problem.
Yep.
Always thinking ahead. And then to put your faith and your trust into somebody who I don't even know, I can't even think of the word. It's just such a disgusting thing to do.
Yeah.
Just to prey on somebody and take everything from them and then just be like, yeah, thanks, bye.
Yeah.
And leave them in emotional
Yeah.
and mental shambles.
Yep.
Of course you hold on to it for a while. You
Yeah.
took your whole life to build that, to put yourself
Yep.
in that position financially. If you
Yeah.
didn't have that, that's not a hill, Sue, that's a mountain. You're
Yeah.
allowed to cry on that mountain for a few years.
Yeah.
It's allowed to be your badge. And you know
Yeah.
what's a bigger badge? The fact that you came out of it and you're doing so well.
Yeah.
So that's something that's your takeaway from it. And you said
Yeah.
it to me. Be
Yeah.
successful,
Absolutely.
and don't let anybody make you feel bad about it. You know what? We made choices. The choices maybe weren't the best choices. We learned from the
Yeah.
mistake, but I love that spin. You had hit a plateau that something needed to change. Now, do I think that it needed to be to that extent? No. No. I think
Yes.
that's that's almost kind of um like you need a slap to the head but someone kicked you in the face, you know?
Yeah.
A simple cuff upside the head would have sufficed, but
For sure.
thanks for taking out my front teeth, awesome. You know? You know?
Yes.
But
Yes,
yeah,
you got
so I mean that's and your children get to watch this and they see their mother going through all of these things. They know what not to do, what to look for, and that you can build yourself back, that you can change your situation, and that it comes down to the mental stamina that you are willing to put yourself through in order to be a good person and not let
Yeah,
these things taint you.
that's
Let
for
them
sure.
train you, let you learn from them, but not taint you
Yeah.
to the point where you hate the world. Now, are you tainted? Probably in some way, because I know that some of the things I've been through, I'm a little tainted. Not tainted to the point where I'm going to stop loving people or wanting to engage or doing networking
Mhm.
events. That hasn't stopped me. But I'm now a little bit tainted where when people say certain things, I kind of eyeball them, right? Like I either get the
Mhm.
side eye and I'm like, That sounds very narcissistic of you. Let's ask a few more questions and see how you do. Let's see if you pass the test.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, but no, good for you. I mean, I think that's amazing that you've done all the things. But anyways, we're going to wrap up because we are an hour and 24 minutes. And I love the fact that my podcast can go anywhere from like 18 minutes all the way to like an hour and a half because, then people are like, we just listen to you all day. It's great. And I'm like, oh, that's great. So thank you for joining us and telling us about your story. I always call it like the story of the person. So the story of Sue.
Mm-hmm.
And that you've done so well in some of the pitfalls and some of your challenges and now your successes. And what a great shout out to Travis Engineering and hearing that they are your family and that they have really done some amazing things for you and that 2025 is your year. And I believe that it is. So keep doing amazing things, Sue. And thank you for being on my show.
Thank you for having me. It's been fantastic.
Yes. Well, thank you. I think so too. I think you get to learn more things about people, right? So we'll have to do a lunch sometime soon. I will be in touch with you shortly, so don't worry, because I do want to talk to you about some other things. But anyways, as for everybody else, thanks for tuning in and have a great day and don't do anything crazy.